The UFC rankings are out, and get comfortable because there was a lot of change in the rankings. I'm Matt Parrino.
I'm Forrest Griffin, and this is what I think of the rankings. Well, let's jump right into it. Luke Rockhold over David Branch. Luke Rockhold had one of the stranger callouts after that win, but I got it, so I'll translate it for you. Luke Rockhold is trying to find a diplomatic way to call Michael Bisping out, who he should get a rematch with the guy that took the title from him, which makes sense. Everybody's like, well, did he forget about Robert Whittaker? Robert Whittaker's not the guy that took his belt from him. 1, 2, Robert Whittaker's having knee trouble, so he's out for a while. 3, the guy he wants to fight and should get a fight with, Michael Bisping, has a fight lined up with GSP. So he's kindly asking GSP to step the aside so he can fight on the November 4th card and regain his title. The title he lost, not the title Bisping lost for not defending the title, too. Get it? It made sense.
Before we get to November 4th, even Luke Rockhold had to get a big win, and he got it. David Branch in Pittsburgh. It capped an amazing event. 8 finishes out of 10 fights. Luke Rockhold now positions himself back where he was before in the running for a title shot. He moves up 1 spot to number 2 in the rankings. But what'd you make of the performance? It was an interesting fight.
He was laid off for 15 months.
Yes.
Was it a 15-month layoff? 2 things struck me. 1, Rockhold's defense against hands did not look that good. And I realized looking back and thinking about his other fights, he usually leads the dance. And people fight him at range and he kind of picks them off. When you pressure him, the way Bisping did as well, he actually doesn't have great defense as far as blocking punches. He can block kicks, he can stop takedowns. You don't realize he is a large, strong human being, and you do not want to be on the floor with him at 185, because he's a 205er in body.
He took the shots. I mean, against Bisping, 1 landed. And in this sport, like you said, you make 1 mistake,
Almost
and it's over.
happened again. He tried to be cute on the fence there for a second.
But he said, he made a point after the fight to talk about there's levels to this game, and at the highest level, you're able to take what a fighter has given you and make adjustments and kind of let the fight come to you, and that's what he did. He wasn't afraid to get hit a little bit. He implemented his wrestling in the second round.
I do actually believe in ring rust, and I think that was just a case of not having somebody throw at you full speed with bad intentions and small gloves in 15 months.
Oh, you're wrong. Dominic Cruz says ring rust. There's no such thing. He's smarter than you. You're
Dominic
out.
Cruz is
Moving right along, one big thing in this fight, reaction-wise,
Cruz says there's no ring rust because for him there's got to be, because he only fights once every year.
Dominic Cruz
doesn't want
greater than Forrest Griffin.
True.
So a big thing in this fight afterwards, tap to strikes. I didn't even see it live, but David Branch tapped to the strikes when Luke Rockhold was on his back. A lot of reaction in the community. What did you make of that whole scenario?
It was fine. Things were going to get worse, not better. There was a long amount of time. I think it was like 4 minutes left in that round. He wasn't getting out of there. Like I said, Luke Rockhold is a big, strong guy, and when he had that back mount and flattened him out, man, it's like the world's gonna end.
4 knockouts in 5 UFC appearances. Mike Perry, is there a hotter guy in the UFC right now? Dana White talks a lot about it.
His face tattoos.
He is. He comes out, does exactly what he was supposed to do against Alex Reyes, who took the fight on 3 days' notice.
So I loved his call out. I love the way he just said, hey, I want to fight. He reminds me kind of a young Robbie Lawler. His fighting style, his brash offensive game reminds me of a young Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler, obviously a lot smarter, has been in those fights, those wars, whatever you want to call them. The only thing I didn't love about his post-fight speech was that he didn't thank the guy for taking the fight, a smaller guy for taking the fight on 3 or 4 days' notice. Thiago Alves got caught up in the hurricane, so wasn't able to make the fight. He stepped up, took the fight on 4 days' notice. Let's give him some credit for that. Let's give Reyes some credit for that.
I mean, Perry said kudos to the guy for stepping up. I mean, did you want him to give him a hug or maybe a kiss?
No, that was it. Just,
So he gave him some kudos. So what else did you want?
I'm glad he did. I didn't know that.
And people actually missed your gum all of a sudden. Isn't that weird? For months, people were telling you, get that thing out of your mouth. And now they missed it. So thanks for bringing it back.
You're welcome.
Kamaru Usman with a huge performance. He moves up 1 spot to number 12. On the cusp of the top 10.
Number 12. Yes.
Number 12. Yes. He says he's a big problem for this division. You agree?
I do agree. While he's not young in life, he's actually older. He's young in his training life, and this is what we talk about. One of the things I love is fighters that continually get better fight over fight, and we've seen that with him.
Mm-hmm. You also love a lot of neck hair.
Who did he just ask, bro? I'm sorry, I apologize. I didn't get my wife on that. Yeah, sorry.
Clean it up. Just clean it up a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Pull it up. Don't touch the mic.
Yeah, now you just made me up the mic.
There you go. There you go. Don't touch that again.
So again, you beat an unranked guy. It's hard to, move up any further than that. So he needs some top 10 competition. Did he call anybody out?
He did. Anybody who wants him, particularly Rafael dos Anjos, who shouldn't be talking about a title shot in his division, as he.
That's a good point. I like it. People talking to each other. These guys sound like they might fight each other, which is good if you're going to potentially fight that person.
Number 10 in the rankings, but number 1 in your heart. Maybe not your heart, maybe my heart. I love Uriah Hall. He's a Vegas guy. He's in the performance too. He's probably going to be on the show in the next couple of weeks, so watch out for that. But he moves to number 10.
Turned us down today.
He said that you have really bad breath, so he wants to do it without you.
That's why I have the gum.
There you go. Uriah Hall moves to number 10 after a huge win over Krzysztof Jotko. He was on a 3-fight losing streak heading into this one. Jotko came out in the first round, 2 10-8 scorecards. He had to basically go back to his corner and really dig deep, and he did. Came back, got the knockout in the second round. What'd you think of the performance?
He's another guy coming back off a long layoff. He looked rusty to me as well. We saw him try to be explosive early in the fight with no success, and from there he kind of hung back and he let Jotko dictate the pace, which he's another guy he can't do. He's got to move, he's got to stay in space. He cannot spend time against the fence like he did. However, he was able to come back, and what was he doing when he knocked him out? Moving forward offensively. Also though, I did see something watching these fights, maybe it's just a card. And I've watched a lot of boxing recently, as there's been a lot of boxing to watch. UFC fighters in 4-ounce gloves, their hand defense is not, their boxing defense is not as crisp as you would think, even at the higher levels. I think, with those small gloves, it really does, it's hard to defend punches correctly. Another guy, I don't like the way he defended punches. Either one of them defended punches very well. This is not the greatest defense. I guess it's better than nothing, but.
I like it. I was just gonna let you, I didn't know if you were done.
I'm not wrong, but.
Okay. As always, go to UFC.com for the complete rankings.
And why did you crumple this up, man?
That was you.
These great notes. Who
wrote these notes?
I don't know. I'm assuming you did.
Yeah, this guy. Got anything good, funny?
Oh, no.
So in the early days of the rankings report, Forrest used to write his jokes down on his hand, like you would write notes.
And now I just can't be bothered to even bother with jokes. Or
it would be 2 in the morning on a Wednesday, and I would get a text message that says, remind me to say this joke on rankings report.
The thing is that none of my jokes ever made sense, even to me upon later review, so I quit with the jokes.
That was good. Good aim.
You're welcome.